Leading Britain's conversation, The Nigel Farage Show.
Mr. Nigel Farage.
Thank you, Donald, and good evening, everybody. Well, one of the big debates in the referendum is what would happen in the event of Brexit to all the EU citizens living in this country. And you'd have thought, listening to some people, that Brexit meant they'd all get rounded up and sent away. And I made it very clear all through the referendum and before that we are not a banana republic, and that anybody that came to this country legally had the right to be here. I did say I felt far too many had come, but they had come legally. Well, we voted Brexit to the surprise of everybody, and the government under Theresa May didn't really seem to know quite what to do. In fact, the impression was given very much that citizens' rights, EU citizens living here, and the fewer British citizens living in the EU, that somehow this was a bargaining chip. I said within a fortnight of the Brexit referendum that I thought we should make one big offer. That being to say, if you've come legally, you can stay, but hereafter, that is not going to be the case. That didn't happen. Now, what we did learn in the negotiations that we've had so far, of course, which haven't been agreed, but what's been discussed so far, was that the transitional period, which is, of course, supposed to last until the end of 2020, that during that transition period, any EU citizens arriving within that period would have full rights to stay. Now, I said, hang on, whoa. We voted in the middle of June 16. This would be 4.5 years after we'd voted to leave, under which there would still effectively be free movement. But now, today, of course, we've got the government telling us that they're preparing for a no deal. And a leaked document, and there are going to be 83 of these documents apparently, a leaked document picked up by the Daily Telegraph says that the Home Office plans to make an offer to existing EU residents who can remain in the EU in a no-deal scenario. This deal would extend to all 3.8 million EU migrants living in the UK. Note that number, 3.8. In the referendum, folks, we were talking about 3.5. So the longer this goes on, the bigger and bigger and bigger the number is. But also, under this no-deal scenario, the unilateral offer that Mrs May would make is not just for the 3.8 million to stay, but they would be able to bring their spouses and close family members from abroad to live in the UK, and that goes on, for the next 5 years, 10 years, 20 years, or however long that might be. The government say they're trying to claim the high moral ground. Well, that was my purpose of doing this. I thought this was the one thing we could have put on the table and dared them, absolutely dared them to say that British citizens didn't have the same right, but to have a cut-off date. So there are problems now with this being offered at this stage. David Jones, a Eurosceptic Member of Parliament, former Brexit junior minister, said it's got to be reciprocal. We have large numbers of Britons in the EU, and their interests have got to be reflected. We've got to look after our own people. So David Jones saying it must be reciprocal. And I've got one or two questions here, because if there's no deal, folks, there'll be no transition. At least that's what the European Union have told us. So there's nothing in this document that suggests any cut-off date at all. In fact, I wonder whether the plan isn't just to keep free movement going for as long as possible. I've also got big questions here about benefits. Not just out-of-work benefits, but in-work benefits too. And again, the document says nothing about that. So I wonder, what do you think about this? I mean, given that nothing is going to be demanded in terms of a reciprocal deal from the European Union, is the government right to take this issue off the table at this stage in the event of a no-deal Brexit? And if you think, well, actually, we have to take the moral high ground, whatever the circumstances, call 0345 6060 973. Or maybe like David Jones, you think, no, we can't do this until we guarantee the rights of British citizens living across the rest of the EU, in which case text to 84850. And let me know what you think. I mean, do you think there'd be a transition period in the event of a no deal? Do you think there should be a cut-off date? put on this somewhere at some point. Let me know. You can tweet using the hashtag Farage and LBC at LBC. And, of course, you can watch us on Facebook and comment there too. Ruth is a brand new caller to this show, and she lives in West Hampstead. Ruth, good evening.
Hi, Mr. Farage. Yeah, I absolutely agree with the government, actually, on this, and it's probably the first time I've agreed with them in the last 2 years about anything. I have a friend, a very, very good friend, my friend Alexandra. She's been over here for probably about 10 years and came here in very good faith from Romania. She's bright, she's funny, she's beautiful, she's paid taxes. Why should her future be in threat? She came here in good faith.
Yes, I mean, Ruth, that's the argument I've made all the way through the referendum and ever since. Those that came in good faith, legally, we'd have to be a banana republic to revoke their rights. The problem is, Ruth, as I just mentioned, during the referendum, we were talking about 3.5 million. It's now 3.8 million. In a couple of years' time, it'll be 4.2 million or higher than that. At what point do we say enough's enough?
Well, Nigel, you know that free movement will end when we leave the European Union.
I don't know.
That will be...
Do you know what, Ruth? I genuinely, honestly, with this government, don't think it will. I've not heard...
I think you're being disingenuous. You know it has to end.
No, I don't.
It will end.
Well, let me tell you...
Well, they've never said anything contrary to the fact that free movement will end. In fact, they've been saying that for the last 2 years. So why would you not believe that?
Because I don't believe anything Mrs May says. Whatever she says and whatever she does tend to be the opposite things. Ruth, I promise you, I've not seen a single proposal from this government at any point in the last 2 years, including the Brexit white paper that came out a couple of months back. There's not been a single proposal about what they're going to do to end free movement. Not one.
Come on, you know the people the will of the people would be outraged if they didn't end free movement if we leave the EU in next March. Of course that will happen.
Why have we not seen a single proposal?
Because I think it's just a given. It's a given if we're leaving, free movement ends. We're not in the EU anymore. Why would we have free movement if we're not in the EU anymore?
Well, we accepted
Unless they absolutely thought that not to have some kind of movement within the EU would sincerely damage our economy.
Well, that's an argument they could make, of course.
Do you want to damage the economy, though? Is that what you want to do?
I've seen plenty of damage done to the economy, Ruth. I've seen plenty done by mass importation of unskilled labour, which, frankly, hasn't just driven down the wages for working people, has put massive pressure on our social services. I think it's been very damaging in many, many ways. I think immigration needs to be selective.
It doesn't seem to be that all of the research says that they are actually a net gain to the country.
It doesn't actually, Ruth. It doesn't actually, Ruth. What the research says, and the House of Lords spent months on this, what the House of Lords said was, overall, the economics were about neutral, all right? However, Ruth, I would make this argument. With a massively increased population, you have to build more roads, you have to build more schools, you have to build more hospitals. There is a capital cost there that never, ever gets priced into this.
Well, I do see that maybe the government actually needs to pull their finger out and put in more infrastructure, which actually would increase productivity.
But if your population is rising because of low-skilled, relatively low-paid people paying tiny amounts of tax, that does not pay for the hospitals.
Well, the low-skilled people that come over here and help, for instance, in the care system or in nursing, I mean, how are we going to replace them?
Well, how do we manage... Well, I tell you what, Ruth, and I've heard this argument again and again and again. How did we manage before 2004? How did we manage before we let in 8, then 10 communist countries to the European Union? We did. We had foreign worker schemes. People could come on a work permit and then leave. Our problem, Ruth, I think, is we've confused that with the automatic right to settle and to bring your family. I mean, Ruth, your point is a salient one. People who voted Brexit wanted us to get some degree of control. This offer today is the generous offer that I thought should have been made 2 years ago. But nowhere here is a cut-off date of any kind agreed. Anyway,
well,
Ruth...
I think you're jumping the gun, Nigel. I really do. I think you need to actually calm down a bit and wait to see what...
Ruth, not one single proposal, including the government's formal white paper. Anyway, thank you. And Ruth, for once, agrees with the government. What does David from Worksop make of this proposal? Hi, David.
You've hit the nail on the head. You mentioned the word benefits. And I tried to get on this afternoon. I'd like one of these Remainer people to tell me one country where I can go and claim working tax credit, child benefit, housing benefit, council tax support, subsidised healthcare, or should I say free healthcare, free prescriptions, and a whole host of other things that we give to people who come here. I went to Greece in June. I took travel insurance. I took E111. I took my currency. I took nothing from Greece. I gave to the Greece economy, but I took nothing out. That's the difference, and nobody seems to... I'd love a Remainer to come up with one country where I can go and get what the people that come here can get. No wonder people want to come. We're the land of milk and honey to people in Europe. They love it.
Well, it's the in-work benefits too, David, as you've mentioned as part of your list.
Credit, yep.
Yeah, no, you're absolutely right. And frankly, if we have genuine shortages of labour, although I get really angry about some of this, because why are we not training up our own nurses, doctors, engineers and all the rest of it? If we've got genuine shortages of labour, we need foreign people to come into our country to work. That's fine. But surely they should have their own health insurance and, as you say, not be a burden on the system. The problem is, David, our system, our welfare system, is non-contributory. And much of the rest of Europe is very different.
That's the difference. And nobody seems to... I've been on here before and I've said that, and they've come back and said, oh, the contributory benefits are good. They are. They're better than ours. But the means-tested ones, but more or less don't exist in Europe.
And what about a cut-off date, David? I mean, Ruth, my last caller, said, well, of course we're going to end free movement when we leave, but nowhere have I seen this government tell me a single way in which they propose. I think they're scared of it, David.
Well, they're very vague and very sketchy about a lot of things because, as you know, Theresa May wants to kick it backwards and backwards and backwards so that she doesn't have to make a decision about anything. It should be March 19th, when we officially leave.
It should be, but David, it's not going to be. Thank you. Alexander says, and it rather agrees with David Jones MP, he says, I never thought I'd see the day that a British government put the rights of foreign citizens over the rights of British citizens. What a disgrace. But Richard on Facebook says, it would be good if the UK could set an example for a change. Well, that is exactly what the government are trying to do. They should have done this, Richard, at the start of the process. That was the one big offer to put into the middle, and after that we should have played hardball. In fact, we've done everything the wrong way round. You're listening to the Nigel Farage Show, exclusively on LBC, and it's now 7:15.
Nick Ferrari at breakfast, weekday mornings from 7.
It has been another weekend of lawlessness on Britain's streets. As I've mentioned now, a man in his 50s died on Saturday after a stabbing in Catford, South East London. That's the fourth knife murder in the capital in 4 days. I thought I'd have a look at Sadiq Khan's Twitter feed because he doesn't talk to me anymore. He's very upset about the death of Kofi Annan, and he's very excited about a woodland programme to plant more trees in London. 4 dead in 4 days, Mr. Mayor.
Nick Ferrari at breakfast.
With The Times. Be not just informed, but well informed.
LBC.
I want Poppy to play cricket for England.
I want Sam to stop screaming.
I want Joe to live a little.
I want Naomi to live a lot.
I want Becky to invent a cure for the common cold.
Whatever the future holds for your children, Vitality Life Insurance want to make it happy, healthy and secure. So when you take out our Wellness Optimizer, you'll get up to 40% off your life insurance premiums.
I want the twins to keep on being happy.
I just want whatever the twins are on.
Just search Vitality Life Insurance. Additional product, minimum monthly premiums and conditions apply.
We are here every day and every night of every year. From newborn to old age. We never panic. We take a pulse, agree a plan, make a cuppa. We're doing our rounds, making our visits. We are Michelle, Adam, Alfie, Frankie, Yvonne. And at 3:49 this morning, we were Maisie too. We are the NHS and we are recruiting now. Search nursing careers.
Virgin Atlantic and Delta Airlines fly to an amazing 230 US destinations. That's so many you can discover everything America has to offer. And we mean everything. Like a buttery lobster roll in Boston, smearing your face in barbecue sauce in Austin, belting out a Broadway classic in New York City, and of course, strutting around in cowboy boots in, well, basically anywhere. Get the ultimate taste of the States with Virgin Atlantic and Delta. Go to virginatlantic.com today to start planning your American adventure. Terms and conditions apply.
Dinner Lady Margaret spent her 25-year career laughing and joking with the school children. Then she received a call out of the blue about her pension from what she thought was a reputable firm. But it was a scammer, and her lifetime savings was stolen.
Yeah, drives like a dream. I'll take it.
Don't let a scammer enjoy your retirement. Check who you're dealing with. Visit ScamSmart from the Financial Conduct Authority.
Looking for a better return on your savings? You could earn up to 5.35% tax-free interest per annum by investing in Cufflink's innovative finance ISA. Join thousands of investors who are earning more from their savings today and visit cufflinkisa.co.uk to get started. That's Kuflink, cufflinkisa.co.uk. Capital is at risk. Rate based on a 5-year fixed-term investment. You should seek independent financial advice.
Meanwhile, in the Incredibles household, the end of summer doesn't mean the end of fun for Dash. Especially with superfast Sky Fibre Unlimited for £25 a month, including line rental. It's on an 18-month contract with set-up fees from $9.95. And it's super fast, perfect for streaming. It's almost as fast as Dash. Search Sky Broadband. Disney Pixar Incredibles 2 in cinemas now. Fibre areas only. New contract $38.99 after 18 months. Terms apply.
The Nigel Farage Show on LBC. Call 0345 6060 973.
Well, the government are saying, regardless if there's a no deal, all EU citizens, all 3.8 million, which is now the number, will be allowed to stay. Plus, they'll be able to bring their spouses, their close family members, and there is no cut-off date being suggested of any kind at all, as there has not been at any point since June the 23rd. 2016. Before that, a quick note. Some are saying it's great news for Greece today. Really exciting, happy news for Greece because they've ended this emergency Eurozone bailout programme. It ended today, and that's great because it's taken them 8 years to pay back this 70-odd billion euros. So everything's fine. Is it? Do you know the Greek economy is now 25% smaller than it was 8 years ago. Even at the depths of the American Depression of the 30s, and buddy, can you spare us a dime, the contraction there from the top to the bottom after the Wall Street crash was 16%. We've seen Greece becoming a third world country before our eyes, and spare a thought for ordinary citizens, spare a thought for pensioners. So 8 years ago, the average old age pension in Greece was about €1,200 a month. It is now less than €700 a month. And all of it to repay money to prop up French and German banks who'd made loans to Greece. It's not Greece that was being bailed out with taxpayers' money from Europe. It was the banks in France and Germany. In the last year or two, there's been a little bit of growth in Greece, but for me, the whole thing is a Greek tragedy. They should never have joined that currency. And you might remember, they voted for a government that said they'd do something about it. Do you remember Mr. Varoufakis, the finance minister, walking up Downing Street wearing a donkey jacket? I thought, whoa, this is the real deal. And yet they crumbled. They collapsed in the face of EU bullying, and they've put their country through years of misery. I tell you what, this new Italian government isn't going to do that. They already were saying they're going to have a budget that is bigger than the European Central Bank, or in particular the Germans, want. And now, in the wake of that horrendous bridge collapse in Genoa, they are saying, because of the sheer number of bridges across Italy, because of its topography, they're going to spend €80 billion on top of their budget over the next few years on infrastructure projects. And I have to say, I think we're entering a period in the Eurozone of great indiscipline. People in the future are not going to do what Greece have done. They're not going to play by the rules. So, the moral high ground, that's what the government have got, but they've got nothing in return for it. There's no cut-off date. They can bring their extended families, and they're open to the benefit system. Is this a good deal? Does it make sense? What does Robin in Kingsbury think? Good evening, Robin.
Good evening, Nigel. What I find sort of peculiar is that after the Brexit vote, the government didn't suddenly say, well, in 3 months' time there would be a cut-off date and that would be it.
Mm-hmm.
They didn't think about doing that. Now, any European citizen who's been here before that date has the right to stay here. I don't think it's very fair to kick anybody out.
Absolutely, Robin, and I always agree with that.
But the other thing that I'd like to point out is those Brits who are married to non-EU, non-British citizens are having a hard time bringing our spouses into this country, yet anyone who is from the European Union who are living here and can bring their spouse in living on a very minimal wage, there is no control of that.
Yes, that's right. I mean, if you've got a non-EU spouse, Robin, you have to show you're earning a reasonable sum of money every year to be allowed to do that, don't you?
Yes, but a EU citizen doesn't.
No, absolutely. That's absolutely right. And so what we've done, Robin, with the entire system, the entire immigration system, we've become very tough on non-EU because of the sheer open door and the sheer numbers that have been coming since 2004 from the EU. And we have in a sense, Robin, we have an immigration system that is biased towards white Europeans against people coming in from the rest of the world.
Well, it's biased against a British citizen, because as a British citizen, I've married someone who is not from the EU or who is British, who has a very well-paid job, who has saved money, who wants to bring the money over here and for us to live here. Yet I can't do that because the British government says, oh, no, sorry, you have got to earn a certain minimum amount of money.
Yeah, no, that's right. I mean, Robin, I'm aware of that. What do you think she should have said? OK, it's a leak, but what do you think the government should be doing in the event of a deal or no deal?
Well, they've the very first things they should have done when the Brexit deal came out is, one, talk to the farmers, can we feed ourselves if we don't get a good deal? That's number one, because this country's got to feed itself. Number two, have a cut-off date and say anyone, say in that September that year, by September the 1st, if they haven't come in by September the 1st, and of course we might have had a rush coming in.
Yeah, we might.
That's your cut-off date. Anyone before that can stay there. Anyone after that, that depends. And I lived in Singapore for 7 years, and there are two types of ID cards there. There's a resident, someone who's a Singaporean has a certain type of card, and a permanent resident, which I was, has a certain type of card. And you come in there, you either set up your own business or you get a job. Why we can't have that here, I have no idea. What's so difficult about an ID card that shows you whether you're a resident or...
Well, I think we're going to have to... I think we are going to have to head towards that. And Robin, the food one's a funny one, because we do import food from the European Union, but equally we import food from the rest of the world.
We import 50% of our food.
I know we do. And when we joined the common market, we were told cheaper food. It actually became more expensive food. So food prices went up to join, and now they're telling us if we leave, we'll have more expensive food. And the truth of it, actually, Robin, is we could bring tariffs down on non-EU food from around the world. So we're not going to starve. We could even get cheaper food. Robin, thank you. Your point is an utterly fair one. This Parliament is out of control. Conservative, Labour or Liberal, they have no feeling of responsibility to the people of this country, says Arthur in Brighton. Allowing EU citizens to stay without any guarantee that Brits living in Europe will have the same rights is madness and shows how much of a soft touch we currently are. Nigel, didn't we vote leave? ? As soon as Article 50 was done, the borders should have been closed and a responsible immigration policy implemented. Yeah, listen, I agree with all of you on this, but they've done none of it. They've done nothing on this issue for well over 2 years. And now we learn, regardless whether there is a deal or there isn't a deal, 3.8 million people will be allowed to stay, allowed to bring their families, allowed to use the benefit system, and there is no cut-off date proposed. If we have a deal, if we have a deal, free movement continues until at least the end of the transition period. That's the end of 2020. If there's no deal, well, we've not been given any date at all. I think it is absolutely pathetic. What does Carl, a new caller from Orpington, make of it all? Good evening, Carl.
Yeah, hello, Nigel. I'm a little bit concerned about your comments about the low-skilled workers. Your immigration control argument would mean that you would want to attract high-skilled workers, professionals, to come into the country. But the big problem with that is that Europe's biggest problem, and our biggest problem, is that we have an ageing population. And because we have an ageing population, these professionals that you want to bring in, they have smaller families. Because of the the time that they have to work, and the hours and the commitments and all and everything else that's associated with that, they generally have smaller families. So then, how does that solve the ageing population?
Well, Carl, I hear that argument, but let me just say this to you: that is Britain, what's our population now? 66, 67 million, but really it's 70, or it's getting on for 70, and some people think it's even much higher than that. Is our quality of life better with the high 60 millions than it was in the high 50 millions? I would suggest it isn't. And this argument, we have to keep having young people because of an ageing population. Well, don't young people get old too? And isn't it possible, Carl, that with health changes, that actually people's working lives could be extended a lot more in the future?
a little bit like semantics, to be honest with you. I mean, the bottom line is that the biggest problem we have, I reiterate, is an ageing population. High professional, selective high professional skilled workers coming into the country on this immigration control argument, it isn't going to solve that problem. In fact, it's going to create a bigger and what you're not seeing is the fact that we have to solve the ageing population, because obviously we're not generating enough income generators to produce the tax to look after the elderly.
But that's where professionals and entrepreneurs who earn a lot of money would help surely towards that problem, rather than a lot of low-skilled people not really paying much tax.
Yeah, but what percentage of those high-skilled people that are you talking about as being entrepreneurs? I mean, we're talking engineers, we're talking doctors, we're talking all these types of people that are not necessarily associated with, kind of private enterprise.
I must admit, Carl, I was very shocked. Very shocked yesterday when we talked about this. And I've checked these numbers since. 28% of our doctors are foreign, right? In the Netherlands, it's 3%, and across the rest of Europe, it's 5 or 6%. So yeah, actually, we should be training our own people. Carl, listen, I haven't got a problem with immigration. I haven't got a problem with filling gaps in the market, whether it's skilled or unskilled. I haven't got a problem with that. What I have got a problem with is people coming to work, having the automatic right to settle and bring their family. And I think, Carl, if we follow the logic of your argument, which is we have to keep replacing because of an ageing population, we'll finish up a few years down the road with a population of 75 million and actually our quality of life diminished.
Question that you raised a moment ago, Nigel, the fact of the matter, the reason we're not training our people is because the poor standard of education we have in the United Kingdom. We're bringing people in from other countries that have a better educational system.
But we're turning away, Carl. We had a woman on yesterday on the phone whose daughter had been refused medical college. She'd got 3 A's in her A-levels and been refused a place. The fact is, and what I've learnt about this, more in the last 24 hours than I had in the years before, is that actually it's quite expensive to train people to do doctors, and we're dodging it and relying on getting people in from abroad. I think we're doing down our own people, Carl.
Yeah, but what are you wanting to kind of replace the admissions officer at the university or the school or maybe?
I just want us to invest in our people for the future. Carl, I've got to end it. I'm out of time. Thank you. We could have spoken for hours. You're listening to the Nigel Farage Show. It's 7:30 and time for the news with Philip Chrysicost.
The Ministry of Justice is now running Birmingham prisons, sacking private contractor G4S following a damning report from the Chief Inspector of Prisons. Ministers say the initial 6-month period is justified because of G4S's breach of contract. Pope Francis has written a letter to all Roman Catholics around the world, condemning what he describes as the atrocities of clerical sexual abuse. The pontiff also acknowledges it had been ignored or covered up in the past. More than 600 jobs are going at House of Fraser warehouses operated by XPO Logistics in Wellingborough and Milton Keynes. XPO is also closing the sites. It's owed more than £30 million by the department store's previous owner. Its new owner, Mike Ashley, is refusing to honour the bill. LBC weather. Dry this evening and overnight, a low of 13 degrees. Tomorrow, cloudy in the morning, brighter by the afternoon, turning wet in the far northwest, a high of 27 degrees.
LBC Travel, there's a lane closed on the M25 anti-clockwise just before junction 24 for Potters Bar because a car has broken down. Catford and the South Circular Road is queuing northbound at the Catford Gyratory. The bus lane is closed there because of an accident. Looking at the roads around Selhurst Park, that's busy on the High Street and on Whitehorse Lane as well, with football fans heading to the Crystal Palace game tonight. On the trains, Southern have delays and some cancellations between East Croydon and Milton Keynes. LBC Travel, I'm Charlotte Downs.
This is LBC.
Morning, Joe.
Morning, Mo.
Was your house built slap bang in the middle of Mo Farah's daily running route? No? Great! Then why not use Yopa to sell your home? You get your own dedicated local estate agent who'll sell your home in no time at all. Ha, see what I did there, Mo?
Yeah, good one.
You're most welcome. That's not as good. Book a free home valuation at yopa.co.uk. Yopa. Seriously, why not? Terms apply.
An amazing kitchen. An amazing bathroom. An amazing hallway.
At Amazing Tiles, our range of porcelain, ceramic and bespoke tiles can make any home amazing. Right now, buy 5 metres or more of plain tiles and get a third off the retail price. Visit our showroom and warehouse at Park Royal Road, London, or call 0208 83 84 900. Make your home amazing at amazingtiles.com.
Vision Consulting Chartered Accountants have seen astonishing growth over the years. So now, their ever-expanding client base means they're looking for remarkable people to join the Vision Consulting team in all areas of the business. In particular, they have immediate start vacancies for senior tax directors and payroll clerks. But they'd love to hear from anyone with a proven track record in accountancy. For a bright new future, visit visionconsulting.co.uk and apply today.
Life is about sharing those magical moments, and food shouldn't be any different. For over 35 years, Marouche has been perfecting this experience with their delicious food, warm hospitality, and live entertainment. Authentic Lebanese cuisine made the traditional way. Marouche, your family restaurant. Book now at marouche.com.
Ambitious and determined to succeed.
Study for a 2-year degree at GSM London this October for just £12,000. That's £6,000 per year, and make your bold dreams happen.
Accelerated degrees are a great way to progress your career faster.
And they're awarded by the University of Plymouth.
Apply now at our Greenwich campus and follow your dreams of success.
Act fast. Offer ends 31st of August.
Search Have Bold Dreams at GSM London.
Special offer. Conditions apply.
This is LBC, the Nigel Farage Show. Call 0345 6060 973. Text 84850. Tweet at LBC using the hashtag Farage on LBC.
Does it make sense in the event of a no-deal Brexit for the government to say to 3.8 million EU citizens, that's fine, you can all stay here, you can bring your families, you can use the benefit system, the health service, and to have got nothing in return whatsoever for UK citizens living in the rest of Europe? That's the question. Before I get there, I was amused. Andrew Pearce, who of course is on LBC on Friday evenings, had a column in today's Daily Mail. A very interesting piece of news. The former head of BBC Television News, Roger Mosey, has said that the corporation, the BBC, leans so far to the left that it often topples into propaganda. And he talks about the BBC's obsession with Boris Johnson, on the burqa, just saying days and days of headlines, and yet nobody actually asking Boris his views on the single market or the World Trade Organization. And he says that for years the BBC has failed to give sufficient prominence to Leave voices. And Roger Mosey saying this, I can go way back to 2005. There was a big independent report and the BBC said themselves, hands up, we've got this wrong, we've not been covering Europe correctly, we will change. And here we are, it's 2018 and their former head of news says that nothing has changed. Graham sends me a text. He says, Nigel, come on, I'm on tenterhooks. It was announced on the news you were re-entering frontline politics. Is this true? Well, Graham, if you were a listener to the Sunday show, we did discuss this and I challenged people to ring up and some of them really did come on and challenge. Graham, what I've said is I'm getting involved with a campaign called Leave Means Leave. It's a cross-party campaign. It's of no party and people from all parties, and what we're trying to do is to get the Brexit debate going again in the country. So much of the Brexit debate is what is going on in Westminster within political parties. Much of it used by people to jockey for position because they want to lead this or lead that. And the people not being engaged, Graham, are ordinary voters. So we're going to have public rallies up and down the country, some dates to be announced within the next week. Battle buses, all the rest of it. I think if the people speak on this, the politicians might think, do you know what? If we really do sell them out on Brexit, there'll be a terrible price to pay. And I want them to understand that. Anybody listening to that wants to challenge me on it? 0345 6060 973. Back to the British government. Does it make sense to have done this at this time? David is a new caller, and he's calling from the Tatra Mountains in Slovakia. David, I've never had a call from Slovakia before. Good evening.
Good evening to you, mate.
So you're a Brit. Are you a Brit living out there, David?
That's right, yeah. Lived here 16 years nearly.
Right, so how do you feel about this proposal?
Okay. I voted Leave.
Yep.
UK needs to be out of the EU for all the right reasons.
Mm-hmm.
Love the Slovak people, love the Europeans, and I agree with you 100% that those that came to the UK legally have every right to remain there.
Mm-hmm.
What is gutting me, but as an ex-serviceman, does not surprise me in the least, is the UK government cravenly backing down without putting a fight up for its own people in Europe. I'm just totally disgusted with them.
And do you, David, as someone living in Slovakia, does that concern you for your own position?
Oh, yeah, it does. Yeah, it does. I mean, heaven knows what's going to happen.
I mean, what do you do, David?
Oh, I'm retired now.
So you're there. So you're there spending your money.
Yeah.
And if you use the health service, the British government pay the bill.
No, I pay my own way.
You pay your own way. Fine.
Just like a Slovak citizen, being resident here, I'm required to take out insurance, which I pay for from my own pocket, and that's what I do.
I wouldn't have thought there's really much problem with you being there. I can't see Slovakia not wanting you there, can you?
No, not at all. But the thing is,
you'd rather the British government had argued your corner for you.
Totally. But I'm not surprised that they don't.
Well, David, not only that, but and I said this to a caller, to Ruth earlier, we've not seen in 2 years a single proposal for how they will tackle, in the future, free movement. There was some vague talk that people might have to register, but there'd still be no limit. David, immigration is something that the mainstream politicians in Britain are too scared to touch.
Totally.
I'm afraid. But and tell us quickly, David, what is life like in Slovakia?
It's superb.
Is it?
It's great. I'm up here in the mountains. Summer are Mediterranean, and in the winters I've got 1.5 meters of snow.
So what would the temperature be today over there?
Just a minute. Helen, what was the temperature today?
Come on, Helen, what is it?
Say again? 36.
36, wow. Well, even we didn't quite reach that at the top of our heatwave. David, thanks for your call. And David saying he's not surprised, but surely they should have at least put a word in for people like David, retired in Europe, spending their money, but they haven't done so. Mark is a new caller from Nuneaton. Good evening, Mark.
Good evening, Nigel. I just want to follow up on the quote that you made at the opening of the show regarding this possible leaked document.
Yeah.
I just want to ask, being from Northern Ireland myself, but now living here in the UK, but having the majority of my family back there, do you think this will solve the Northern Ireland border issue?
Well, you better ask the government that, not me. Quite frankly, Mark, I haven't understood from the start what the Northern Ireland thing was all about, other than Monsieur Barnier using it, making a huge issue out of it, and the British government throwing their hands up in horror and saying, oh dear, oh dear, oh dear, getting boxed in so much in December that she agreed to this bizarre backstop that would leave us in full regulatory alignment. I mean, I think with Ireland, Mark, it's a very different situation, isn't it? We've had this common travel area with Ireland, since the separation of the countries. We already have huge differences north and south of the border, different currency, different tax rates. I honestly think this has been whipped up to be some kind of crazy they've put it up. Here's an insoluble problem, and actually what we've got to say is we've no intention of putting in place a hard border. That's my feeling. I mean, how do you feel about it, Mark, as somebody from Northern Ireland?
I think certainly when the Good Friday Agreement came about, that it created a way forward for the people of Northern Ireland, and I think, certainly when I go back to see my family and with my partner, we love being there. It's such a vibrant place to be now, and it's come a long way.
It has, yeah.
What I would say is I think Karen Bradley needs to get off the pot. She's been in the position for whatever amount of time she's been there, and there's still no power-sharing executive. I think if that was the case, then it might be great, but I've got a different opinion on the DUP propping up Theresa May. I don't think it's right. I don't think it should be happening. And I think almost that Northern Ireland, in a way, is in this whole thing, is being a bit used as collateral damage.
Yes. Yes, I would agree with that. I would agree with that completely, and it's Monsieur Barnier, above all, I think, was done it. Mark, I thank you. Marianne says, if it's not reciprocated, absolutely not, referring to the government, saying, you can all stay, but we're not going to ask for anything back in return. If they meet the needs of the economy, yes. Will we have a skills shortage? Yes. For any other reason, no. Well, Dave, a skills shortage... can be somebody getting a work permit to come for a year, not necessarily having the automatic right to settle and bring their family. This is the problem. The distinction between work and settlement has been completely lost with the European Union. The reason that most people voted to leave was uncontrolled immigration, and yet the government are choosing to ignore this. Mark, on Twitter, I agree with you completely. Mr. Farage, can you remind me whether we, the citizens of the UK, put a tick or a cross in the boxes given to decide whether we stayed in or came out of the European Union? Well, you'd have thought, for much of what Mrs May has done in the last couple of months, that we'd voted to remain. And in fact, Andrea Jenkins, backbench Tory MP, said in Prime Minister's Questions, could the Prime Minister please tell us at what point did leave become remain? Let's go to Nicholas in Rotherham. Nicholas, hello.
Hi, I'd like to ask, while she's giving away to Europeans all these rights to bring everybody they want here, what about our rights to bring our families here? Mine's split across the world. I'm disabled. I'll never meet Theresa May's minimum threshold for your family. My son's here because he's of school age. I couldn't look after both of my kids. My daughter's over there with my wife. Who's letting us come together?
Well, if your wife's is your wife a UK citizen, Nicholas?
No,
or?
she's a Thai citizen.
Oh, well, then you've got a problem, yeah. Yeah,
exactly. I'm disabled. I'll never meet that cab.
Yeah.
We'll be split forever until I'm retired. I mean...
I would have thought and hoped that if you're disabled and unable to work, that might be a way around it, but it's not, no.
We've been to the immigration and everything about that before. In Thailand, you have to apply in that country. When I went with all the paperwork, they told me unless you've got enough money to show you can keep her for the next couple of years, you've got no chance.
And yet, if you'd married a Romanian, Nicholas, there'd be no problem, would there?
Exactly.
Yeah. So I mean, you're basically feeling the whole thing's unfair.
Yeah, I feel they're doing the same to Brits in Europe. They're doing the same to Brits. They basically just forget about us all the time.
Yeah. No, Nicholas. Look, you're the second caller tonight. Made a very similar point, and we seem to discriminate. Funny word, that, isn't it? Discrimination. We discriminate openly in favour of anyone that comes from Europe and against anyone that comes from the rest of the world. Why does nobody ever say that the British government discriminates in favour of white Europeans and against people of colour from the Commonwealth? Oh, no, better not say things like that. Too difficult, too awkward. You're listening to the Nigel Farage Show, exclusively on LBC. It's 7:45.
Coming up at 8 on LBC, Clive Bull.
With widespread use of drugs, alcohol and violence amongst inmates, is it possible to take back control of Britain's worst prisons?
Clive Bull on LBC.
Oh, it's great to see everyone, isn't it?
Yeah, you can't beat a good picnic.
Your local Co-op's latest summer deal is 3 for 2 on selected picnic food, including Scotch eggs, mixed olives and feta, coleslaw and many more.
When I said we'd all go out to eat, I meant it.
Varieties are stocked, cheapest item free.
Ambitious and determined to succeed.
Study for a 2-year degree at GSM London this October for just £12,000. That's £6,000 per year, and make your bold dreams happen.
Accelerated degrees are a great way to progress your career faster.
And they're awarded by the University of Plymouth.
Apply now at our Greenwich campus and follow your dreams of success.
Act fast. Offer ends 31st of August.
Search Have Bold Dreams at GSM London.
Special offer. Conditions apply.
That's a Swale heating engineer setting off to help another customer. We have over 250 highly qualified engineers on hand 24 hours a day, 365 days a year to deal with your boiler installations and emergency breakdowns. Visit swaleheating.com. Rely on us to keep you warm.
Last year in England, more than 250,000 workplaces took on an apprentice. I'm here with Brian, Managing Director of Berth and Boat Company, to find out how apprenticeships have benefited his business.
We've been in business since 1877, and I think it's vitally important to have new talent coming through the ranks. We've successfully trained some 65 apprentices over the last 10 years, many of whom are now at the heart of our business, helping us to win new contracts and deliver better products.
To find out how apprenticeships can work for your business, phone 08000 150 600 for free advice or search Hire an Apprentice.
Buying a new car can be a haunting experience. Is there enough room for the little monsters? Will it be devilishly expensive to run? Will I be haunted by the price? Well, from only $9,995, the all-new Dacia Duster gives you the freedom to get what you want with none of the ghoulies. Dacia, you do the maths. Participating dealers only.
Would you and your business benefit from a personal approach from your accountant? At Barnes Rofe, of course, our partners have the technical skills needed to offer you first-class audit, tax and accounting advice. But most importantly, we'll work closely with you to help your business grow long-term. Perhaps it's time to see what we can do for you. Arrange your free consultation at barnesrofe.com. Barnes Rofe, clever accountants for business.
Leading Britain's conversation. LBC, The Nigel Farage Show.
Is it right we guarantee the rights of 3.8 million European citizens, a number set, of course, to rise, and we don't demand anything back for Brits living across the rest of Europe? Before I get to that, a little bit of a row breaking out in the Conservative Party. I mean, nothing new there, you say. But two pro-Remain MPs, Philip Lee and Anna Soubry, worried about the Leave.eu Aaron Banks campaign, who are urging everybody to join the Conservative Party. They claim their backers are flooding into the Conservative Party. The idea is they'll get rid of Mrs May and they'll get a proper Brexit Prime Minister. Anna Soubry says some of it are people who, over Europe, no longer supported us, went off to UKIP and now they're coming back. Philip Lee says it's time to wake up and act against the hard right momentum within the Conservative Party. And in fact, George Freeman, former head of Downing Street, says we must resist pressure from Nigel Farage to distort Conservative membership. George, I'm nothing to do with it, matey. I'm not advocating that people join the Conservative Party, not under Mrs May. You must be joking. And I mean, if I think back over the years, the Referendum Party and UKIP, being outside the Conservative Party, exerted huge pressure, much more than they could ever have done from within. And if people followed Aaron Banks' advice and everyone left UKIP and joined the Tory Party, they'd be over the moon, because the one party that they fear could do them electoral damage would have disintegrated. If there is going to be a leadership election in the Tory Party, my guess is, I'm amazed it's lasted this long, my guess is it would happen at around about the time of the Tory conference. But folks, if there is a contest that gets triggered in early October, you have to be a Tory party member for 3 months before you're able to take part in the process. But, you know, I do understand the argument, which is, well, the hard left, through momentum, have entered the Labour Party and taken it over. Maybe the same could be done with the Conservative Party. That's if enough people wanted to do it. But if that meant the end of UKIP, I don't think that makes an awful lot of sense. Lynn on Facebook says, taking back control was the mantra. We can't even control our prisons. Lynn, I have to say, we nearly did debate that issue this evening. You know, the idea that the fumes from drugs were so strong that it was physically affecting prison officers on those wings. I mean, what on earth have we come to? Anyway, we're discussing the British government and their offer. And Peter is a brand new caller from Manchester. Good evening, Peter.
Hi, Nigel. How are you doing?
I'm doing very well. So what is your perspective on this, Peter? I sort of half detect an EU accent there.
Yes, I'm from Romania, basically. So,
right.
Yeah, I'm Romanian, living here in the UK, so I'm very happy with the country and all that, obviously. I own a business here, and but basically I do agree with you. We should have been more harsh with the EU in these negotiations, because I live here and I want the best for this country now, so we have to negotiate, be harsher in negotiations with the EU. So.
And how many Romanians are here now, Peter?
I can't say exactly, but could be like 500,000, maybe something up to.
Well, I tell you what, when I said that I thought 250,000 would come, the mainstream media screamed blue murder. I was exaggerating. I was scaremongering.
Yeah.
It's about 420. It's about 420,000. But, Peter, that's who we know of. So huge numbers of cars. And I do understand, because I've been to Romania, and I've seen some pretty poor parts of Romania, and I do understand life is better, but we do need to have some degree of control. And yet it seems, Peter, the open door is just going to continue.
It has to be about quality of immigration in general, anywhere in the world. So it's not just,
my argument, Peter, my argument is we should not be discriminating in favour of people from Romania and against people from India or Australia.
Yeah, everybody should be equal.
And what is your business, Peter?
Graphic design, 3D design, and things like that. So.
And life's pretty good, huh?
Creative agency, yeah. So
good.
What I'm seeing at the moment is that, as you said before, we don't do enough to invest in our people here.
No.
So I have a small business. I'm trying to invest a lot into training people locally, and they do quite good if you put the effort and money and you invest into them.
Well, it sounds like you're investing in the country, Peter, in every way. Thank you. Thank you for your call. I got a message here from John in Chelmsford who says, regarding the comments made today from some of your callers about looking after the elderly, I'm 77 years of age. I've worked all my life since the age of 15, and I'm still working today, even on my birthday. Happy birthday, John. I've not been looked after by the system. What more do some of your callers expect from the elderly like myself, who have contributed all our lives, received nothing in return? Why do we need to import people to care for the elderly? Well, it's a very, very interesting point, John. John, you are clearly, if you're working at 77, one of those people who is relatively fit and healthy. Not everybody, of course, is as fortunate as you, and it is difficult to get people to work within the care system. But the argument that keeps getting made, John, is ageing population, we have to just have more and more and more and more people. And my feeling is, if we go towards 70, 75 million, it's the quality of life that will diminish. Lucas says on Facebook, after a no-deal Brexit, I think most of the low-skilled, low-paid labour will leave anyway. Don't know, Lucas, that there have been slightly fewer people coming, net, from the European Union since Brexit, but it's not massive, and I'm not convinced. I'm actually not convinced. I think if you have come here from Romania and you're doing okay, I don't think you're going to go back in a hurry. That's my feeling. What does Thomas in Worthing make of the government's position? Thomas, good evening.
Good evening. Bearing in mind that this is a leaked paper or a leaked information,
yes,
I think it is utterly ludicrous. Had the government come out at the beginning of this negotiation process and said, we're taking the moral high ground with this one, anybody who comes to the UK from the EU legally before the cut-off point for Article 50 is allowed to stay here indefinitely, and we would hope that the EU would do the same for our UK expats. They would actually be able to take the moral high ground. But yet again, we've got another leaked piece of information that completely destroys any possibility of them taking any kind of a moral high ground on the negotiations.
Thomas, it would have been a moral high ground if it hadn't been seen to be a bargaining chip for the last 2 years. That's the point, isn't it? That is the point. So now it doesn't look like a moral high ground. Now it looks like a further surrender because they're asking for nothing in return. There's no cut-off date. I mean, Thomas, they've got the whole negotiation wrong, in my view.
Well, I mean, and I would also like to know where all of these leaks keep coming from, because I noticed nothing positive about Brexit is being leaked from the government, and yet anything that's negative or can impact the negotiations negatively is leaking out of the government quicker than the colander.
Well, yeah.
I mean, it's ridiculous.
But that's because the civil service, who are supposed to be neutral, are, of course, hugely, hugely pro-Remain. And my goodness me, they really, really are. If I fancy getting a bit of abuse, Thomas, I just go and stand at Hub Estates 9 o'clock in the morning outside one of the big civil service offices, and there's torrents of abuse I get. It's quite extraordinary. They are pro-Remain. That's where your leaks are coming from. I believe that. Thomas, thank you. Time for one last caller very quickly. Mika, who's a new caller from Belvedere.
Yes, that's me.
Hello, good evening.
Boss, you are the biggest boss.
Right. Okay.
You are the biggest boss. Yeah, I'm telling you now. I want the whole world to hear it.
Right, well, very kind of you, Mika. So what about the government? Are they doing the right thing in your view?
No.
Right. So what should they...
You went and became a member of parliament in EU.
Yes.
And you told the world what's going to happen. Yeah?
Well, I did my best, yes.
It happened.
Yeah.
And it happened.
Yeah.
Yeah? You are the biggest boss.
Well, that's fine, Mika, but we've got to sort this mess out. And I'm not the Prime Minister. So what do we need what do we need the Prime Minister to do, Mika?
We need her to step down and let you step into her shoes.
Right, okay. Well, that's a great...
1 minute. I've got to say something.
Yeah, go on.
Right? First and foremost, I'm second generation black.
Uh-huh.
It needs to be known. All right?
Yep.
So no one can play the race cards because apparently a black person can't be racist.
Right.
Which we can. Yeah? But I'm putting it how it is. You need to step into her shoes. Take over this government. You are our idol.
Well, Mika, I am flattered hugely by your call. I want to thank you. You sound like a complete star. Be great fun to meet you. I'm sure it'll be good fun too. I'm going to go off and have a drink and think about this proposal. I'm not sure it's very practical. Be quite fun though. Hey, I'll be back tomorrow evening at 7. At 10 o'clock tonight, it's Ian Collins. But up next...